Hello everyone, and welcome to another interesting game from round 7 of the 2018 Candidates Tournament. Here we have Sergey Karjakin with the white pieces and Wesley So with the black pieces. Now, I was very amazed by what happened in this game. I don't know if you've seen it or not. By all means, do share your opinions in the comment section, as Wesley had a not the greatest tournament so far, but he did beat Levin Aronian in the previous round, so he's very satisfied with himself. And now, obviously, after seeing this game, he kind of does play for the draw with the black pieces. And Sergey Karjakin definitely isn't having the tournament of his life, as he's the 2016 challenger to Magnus Carlsen. So naturally, you'd expect him to do well in the 2018 Candidates Tournament, I mean, it's really weird what happens in this game. You'll just have to see it. And before we start, I do have two photos from this game. Here we have a nice photo of Sergey Karjakin. I mean, he does look kind of weird. I don't know what's wrong with him, but he doesn't look like the usual Sergey Karjakin. Maybe he changed his hair. And other than this, we have a photo of the two of them. Here we have Wesley So sipping his beverage and Karjakin pondering on the position. So let's see this game. Karjakin opens with d4. We have knight to f6, c4 and e6 now. Knight to c3 and bishop to b4. So the Nimzo-Indian defense. We have e3, castles, knight to f3 and d5, the Ragozin variation of the Nimzo. Bishop to d2, now c5, a3, c captures on d4, a captures bishop on b4, and now d captures on c3. Bishop captures on c3 and d captures on c4. Bishop captures on c4 and immediately picking off the queens. Queen captures and now king captures. Rook captures is also possible, depends which you prefer. Bishop to d7, because white definitely isn't interested in castling, so it doesn't matter if he captures with the king. Bishop to d7, king to e2 now, and rook to c8, attacking the bishop. Bishop to d3, and now we have knight to d5, knight to e5, attacking the bishop on d7. Bishop moves back to e8, and now bishop to d2, not allowing black to alleviate white of the bishop pair. f6, kicking the knight, knight to c4, and now rook to d8. Black doesn't want to allow rook to d6. Here we have rook h to c1 and knight to c6. Bishop to e4, knight captures on b4, bishop captures on b4, and knight captures on b4. Seems like white just lost a pawn here, but not really. White actually wins a pawn. Bishop captures on b7 with the attack on the rook. Rook to b8, and now rook captures on a7. And here, for the moment, Karjakin is up a pawn. But rook to d7, attacking the bishop, of course, knight to a5, defending it, and now knight to d3, attacking the rook on c1. And here, Karjakin plays rook to d1. Rook to c2 is also possible, but after bishop to g6, this rook will have to move eventually, and black will win the b2 pawn. So Karjakin doesn't even bother defending it. He plays rook to d1 with a double attack on the knight, and now knight captures on b2, again attacking the rook on d1. Rook captures on d7, bishop captures on d7, and bishop to c6 now, forcing even more exchanges. Bishop captures, knight captures, attacking the rook on b8, and here rook to e8. And this rook to e8 is a pretty big mistake by Wesley So, and this will come back to haunt him later in the game. The reason is, here after seeing this position, you have to realize that the rook is covering the a8 square, the knight is covering b8 and the d8, and c8 is currently of pretty much no importance, as the king will definitely come up the board and protect the knight on c6. So definitely a move like rook to b6, getting the rook to an active square would have been better, but okay, Wesley plays rook to e8, and now we have e4. Knight to c4, king to d3, Karjakin wants to get his king into the game, knight to d6, and now f4. We have king to f8, Wesley also wants to activate his king, but now e5. F captures on e5, F captures on e5, attacking the knight, knight to f5, and now g4. Again, pressuring the knight. Knight comes to h4, and now king to c5. And now, as you can see, the material is completely equal on the board. It seems that black will have some counterplay after going knight to f3, attacking the pawn, and maybe the knight can pick off one of these two pawns. or after going knight to f3, attack the h pawn and the e5 pawn. But you'll see that this position is pretty much hopeless for black, because you have to see that the rook is covering the a8 square. C8 square is of not much importance for the rook, because the king can simply defend the knight here. The knight also covers the e8 square, and this rook has no way of becoming active. So rook to b6 in that position was extremely important. Here, knight to f3, attacking the h2 pawn, and first rook back to a2, not pushing h3 to allow knight to g1 to attack the pawn even further. Here, rook to c8, we have king to b5 defending the knight, and now king to e8. And this king to e8 is the final nail in the coffin, so to say. Here, it was extremely important to play rook to c7, and for some reason Wesley missed this. I think it's because Wesley was basically going for a draw this game. He was satisfied with a draw, and he thought this game was indeed drawn. But here, rook to c7 was an extremely important move, because this is the only moment in the game, I mean not the only, but the last moment in the game, you had a chance to activate your rook. Now after king b6 you have rook to d7, and you do have somewhat of an active rook. If this rook comes to check, you go to f7, and it's all okay. But after this king to b5, Wesley played king to e8, wanting to improve the king's activity even further, but now it's all over. Now king to b6, and now this rook really doesn't have any square to go to. Here g5 was played, we have h3, and now black is basically in Zugzwang. There's really no move you can make here. You can't really move the king. If you play something like king to f8 going back, then rook to f2, this simply wins a piece. If you try something like king to d7, then you get rook to a7 check, king moves, and now simply rook captures on h7 with the threat of rook to h8. There's no way to defend this rook. Black would have to give up the exchange here, and white is completely winning in this position. So after h3, there really isn't anything to do here. Black could waste one more move with h6, but this doesn't achieve anything. Simply rook to a7 with the threat of rook to e6, rook to e7 check, picking up this pawn, or if the king moves, simply rook to h7 and then pick up all the pawns on the king side. But you don't even have to trouble yourself. Even the brute king to b7 wins the game. Now there's no way you can move this rook. After king to d7, now comes knight to b8 check, king to d8, and now rook to a8, threatening knight to c6, opening up a discovered attack from the rook, also checking the black king and winning a full rook. So here black would have to capture, and after you capture this, king moves, now rook to h8, and after knight captures on e5, you capture on h6, and now you have 2 pawns and the rook against 2 pawns and the knight, a winning position for white. But after this h3 move, Wesley didn't even want to go into any of these endings where he has a knight against the rook, maybe trying to hold this. He just played knight captures on e5. It's definitely a weird decision. I don't know if he missed something or what happened here, but you know, trying to hold knight against the rook and 2 pawns seems like a more reasonable choice than playing knight captures on e5. But again, I haven't seen the live coverage. I don't know if he missed something or was there some plan to this. But okay, Karjakin simply captured it. We have rook to c3, Wesley goes for the h3 pawn. We have rook to h2 defending it, king to e7, and now after king to b5, rook to e3. After this rook to e3 move, Wesley resigned the game. I mean, there's no point in continuing it. You have a pawn for a knight, but that's like no compensation whatsoever. White will simply move the knight, and there's really nothing black can hope for here. So yeah, after this rook to e3 move, Wesley resigned the game, and a nice victory for Sergei Karjakin. He definitely isn't having the tournament of his life, but you know, a victory in this first half of the tournament, at least one, will definitely give him something to look forward to. So yeah. A very interesting game, although I mean the queens did come off the board like really early in the game, and I think that the reason Wesley missed this idea of Karjakin simply being too active was because he was actually playing for a draw. If he was trying to play the best moves, I don't think he would have lost this game. But yeah, that's what happens. You get that win against Arnion in the previous round, now you lose a game like this against Karjakin, and that rook to c7 move isn't like something a 2800 player would miss. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's a weird game. So if any of you have any more insight to this, do share in the comments. So that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. Once again, I would like to thank Nikki for her photos from this event, from the 2018 Candidates Tournament. As usual, all of the links to her social media will be in the description below. Feel free to check out some of her work, and yeah, that's it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. I will make both of them from the candidates. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, probably with a nice game by Vasily Ivanchuk, as it is his birthday today. Thank you all.